behind closed doors, some marriages don't break. They silently bleed. Mine did too. What started as love slowly turned into a crossfire of unspoken betrayals, simmering resentment, and emotional landmines waiting to explode. This is how my marriage became a battlefield I didn't realize I was dying in. For years, Maya and I looked perfect from the outside. We smiled in photos, hosted dinners, celebrated anniversaries with public affection. People would say, "You two are relationship goals." But what no one saw was the cold, precise choreography behind our performance. We weren't partners anymore. We were actors, reading lines off a script we'd memorized, but had long since stopped believing in. The first sign came in small ways, so subtle they were easy to dismiss. Maya's eyes, once fixed on mine with such focus, began to drift over my shoulder when I spoke. Her voice, which used to wrap around words like warmth, took on a flat, transactional tone. Our conversations, once sprawling discussions about dreams and fears, shrank into brief, functional updates. "What time are you coming home? Did you pay the electricity bill? Your laundry is in the dryer." Laughter became a rare artifact, softness a forgotten language. We had become polite roommates who happened to share a bed and wear wedding rings. I became a master of justification. I told myself, this is normal. Every marriage settles into a comfortable silence. This is just a phase, a natural dip in the long road. But in the deepest, quietest hour of the night, a truth would pulse, like a sore tooth. We weren't in a phase. We were in free fall, and we were both too proud or too terrified to mention the ground rushing up to meet us. The space between us wasn't empty. It became solid, built brick by brick with new habits. I started staying later at the office, not because the work demanded it, but because the silence of my cubicle was preferable to the silence of our living room. Maya took up solo hobbies, spending entire weekends on long drives or locked in the guest room with her sketchbook, a room that had somehow become exclusively hers. We perfected the art of coexistence without intersection. Our calendar was full, but our life was empty. We attended parties, a united front of polished smiles and effortless banter. We would stand side by side, my arm around her waist, her head tilted toward me, a picture of connubial bliss. And the moment we stepped into the car for the drive home, the performance would end. The air would thicken, the silence would descend. We would ride home in a vacuum, the echoes of the party's laughter still ringing in our ears, highlighting the utter quiet between us. We were building separate lives within the same four walls, and the most painful part was the unspoken agreement to let it happen. People think betrayal must be an event, an act of infidelity, a seismic lie. But I learned that the deepest betrayals are not acts of commission, but of omission. They are the slow, silent withdrawals of trust and transparency. It began with Maya hiding things, small, insignificant things, a new jacket in the closet, tags removed, never mentioned, a noticeable dip in our joint savings account, with no new purchase to explain it, a Saturday morning where I'd find her gone, a text arriving only after I asked, "Went out, back later." When I would muster the courage to inquire, her responses were a masterclass in deflection. "Why are you keeping score? It's not a big deal, just let it go. You're looking for problems again." My logical mind tried to accept her explanations, but my body, my instincts, knew better. A constant, low-grade anxiety became my new normal. Something fundamental was breaking. The revelation came on a Tuesday evening. I was looking for a pen in her handbag and found a folded receipt from a therapist, dated from 6 months prior, with several subsequent appointments. My blood ran cold. I didn't know she was going. I didn't know she was drowning. I was living with a stranger who was in so much pain she sought professional solace from another stranger. When I confronted her, holding the receipt like a damning piece of evidence, she didn't look angry. She looked exhausted. She said, "I didn't want to burden you. And anyway, you don't listen. You haven't really listened in years." That sentence was a surgical strike. It cut deeper than any discovered affair ever could, because she was right. Somewhere between the mortgage payments and the empty routines, I had stopped being her harbor, and she in turn had stopped sailing her ship toward me. Our greatest betrayal wasn't to each other. It was to the marriage itself, by collectively pretending the cracks were just part of the wallpaper. Resentment is slow poison. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It accretes. It whispered when Maya would criticize the route I drove, her grip tight on the door handle. It accreted with every heavy sigh she let out when I walked into a room, as if my mere presence was a disruption to a peace I wasn't part of. I began to edit myself. I stopped sharing funny stories from work because I could see her eyes glazing over before I reached the punchline. I stopped suggesting movies because she always found a reason to decline. Our home transformed into a museum of unsaid words and curated indifference. Every shared smile felt forced, a muscle memory with no heart behind it. Every occasional touch felt rehearsed, a gesture from our old script. Every silence was no longer comfortable, but charged, a trap waiting to be sprung. The eruption, when it finally came, was almost a relief. I came home late from a work dinner, the smell of rain and city on my coat. Maya was at the kitchen table, sitting in the dark. A single plate of cold food was in front of her. In the dim light, I could see the tracks of tears on her cheeks. "You didn't even text," she whispered. The sound frayed. "I was in a meeting, then dinner. I lost track of time," I said, the standard defense already weak on my tongue. "No." She shook her head slowly, a movement of profound defeat. "You weren't just working. You were avoiding this, avoiding me. We both know it." And she was right again. The dam broke. Years of swallowed words, stifled frustrations, and unmet needs came flooding out in a torrent of brutal, honest agony. "You have completely checked out. You don't love me anymore," she screamed, her voice raw. "How can I love you when you look at me like I'm a constant disappointment? You don't even like me," I screamed back. But in the shattered silence that followed our shouts, the emotion that filled the room wasn't hatred. It was grief. Profound, desolate grief for the two people who had once chosen each other against the world, and for all the years they had spent loving each other without ever truly seeing each other. After that night, we didn't live as husband and wife. We lived as ghosts, haunting the same space. We moved through the same house, performed the same routines, but the heartbeat of our home had flatlined. She slept curled toward the wall, a fortress of blankets between us. I slept rigid on the very edge of the mattress, as if trying to minimize my footprint in her world. We would both wake up and perform the morning ritual, pretending the sunlight didn't feel like an intrusion on our private desolation. The end, when it came, was not a firework. It was a candle snuffed out. "I think we need some time apart," she said one evening over lukewarm coffee. Her voice was calm, terrifyingly so. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't an ultimatum. It was a broken truth, finally acknowledged. We separated with a quiet, devastating dignity. No dramatic scenes, no thrown possessions, just two profoundly tired people, accepting that love, however real, is not always enough to keep two souls navigating the same constellation. I moved into my brother's spare room. She stayed in the house that was now just a structure. And for weeks, I was a prisoner to my phone. Every buzz was a potential lifeline, every notification a spark of impossible hope. I would craft messages in my head, paragraphs of apology and promise, but never send them. The phone remained devastatingly silent, and I learned that silence is also an answer. Her silence was the loudest, clearest message I had ever received. Months passed. The sharp pain dulled into a constant, manageable ache. We agreed to meet one final time to discuss the practicalities we'd avoided. She suggested the little cafe where we'd gone on our third date, where we'd once shared a sundae and whispered our biggest, most fragile dreams. She looked different, lighter, not necessarily happier, but more integrated. The tension that had lived in her shoulders was gone, and as I sat down, I wondered if I looked a bit freer too, less weighed down by the failure I had been carrying. We talked, really talked, not as adversaries, not as wounded ex-lovers, but as two people who had shared a long, arduous journey. "We stopped choosing each other," she said, stirring her tea. "Every day, in 1,000 little ways, we chose irritation over patience, silence over conversation, ourselves over the team, and we didn't even notice we were casting the votes." Her words were a key, unlocking a final understanding. Marriage doesn't die from a single catastrophic blow. It dies from 1,000 small daily neglects, from the paper cuts left untreated that eventually drain the life from the bond. When we finally signed the divorce papers in our lawyer's bland office, there was no anger left, no tears, just a quiet mutual exhaustion and a sliver of respect. We had loved each other once, fiercely, but staying would have meant twisting that love into something resentful and ugly, until no trace of its original form remained. Leaving, we realized, was the first truly kind, protective thing we had done for each other and for the memory of our love in many, many years. Some toxic marriages don't start toxic. They become that way slowly because two people stop tending the garden and wonder why the flowers died. They stop growing together and then they start hurting each other just by occupying the same space. If you felt even a small echo of yourself in this story, if you recognized the static, the distance, the museum of unsaid words, maybe it's time to ask some hard questions of yourself, of your partner. Love is a beautiful, living thing, but sometimes holding on is what kills it. And letting go, as brutal as it feels, is the only way to stop the bleeding. This story was shared on Reddit Sting Stories where real people reveal their darkest truths and hardest lessons. If you want more raw, emotional, real-life confessions that speak to the heart of the human experience, subscribe for more. Until next time, take care of your heart. It's the only one you get.